Mike McCool here in the Royal Examiner studio, and with me today is Sheriff Mark Butler. Sheriff is running for re-election in the November election, November 7th.
Yeah.
And we remind everyone, early voting starts September 22nd, and if you're not registered to vote,
Please do.
you still have time. So there's no excuse not to vote.
What's the last day for it?
I think it's in October, I want to say the 14th, but I'm not 100% sure because we looked it up and now the date, shoom.
Right. I mean, it's definitely flying
But
by.
you have plenty of time right now. So, how's the campaign going?
Well, really it's just been being sheriff.
Yeah.
And, we try to get out as much as we can, but our sheriff's office is everywhere anyway.
Sure.
We've been pretty busy with all the different ideologies in our nation going on.
Sure.
And so we've been providing a lot of security for some certain events, and it's just been a busy time, but we're school's back in, and we're trying to get some things with like almost bring in all the figureheads to hopefully solve some issues within the schools before they get out of hand. But
I noticed at the last Board of Supervisors meeting, you had plenty of deputies there. There was a crowd.
Yeah, there was a crowd.
Yeah, and then we had the library meeting last night, and you had a couple of deputies there, but that was nice and calm. So
we fielded a lot of questions, or I fielded a lot of questions on, Sheriff, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that at a Board of Supervisors meeting or whatever? Our job is really just to do our best to ensure peace, keep the peace, and to ensure everyone has their right to express their constitutional First Amendment.
Right. A lot of that constitutional stuff going on a lot. The governor in New Mexico has put that gun ban on, and a lot of the sheriffs out there said, whoa, that's you can't, her comments about the Constitution was, well, it's okay, but we're going to we're going to abolish it. That doesn't matter. I think a lot of these sheriffs push back on that constitutionality of the Second Amendment.
Well, a lot of us sheriffs have gotten together, and we speak quite often. I'm actually going to a conference next week. Our Constitution is being challenged day in and day out. I do believe that the sheriff is the last resort to protecting our Constitution, the last line of defense for it. Matter of fact, September 17th through the 23rd is, believe it or not, Celebrate Constitution Week.
That's right. I'm going over to the middle school this week, and we're going to be doing. The kids have been writing, essays on the Constitution. I think that, and it's eighth grade.
Good. That's awesome.
I've learned also, and believe this or not, I think second and third grade they do they actually still teach civics. I was shocked. I thought they'd done away with that. And they'd start the Declaration of Independence like second and third grade, sixth grade, and then by the time they get into eighth grade, they're spending a whole period on Constitution.
See, and that was probably one of my favorite classes.
Yeah.
Looking at the job of sheriff, really enforcing the law is part of it. But my main job is to protect the Constitution and to ensure everyone's constitutional rights are not invoked. And I take that very seriously, but no different than you in the military.
Sure.
I've been swearing to an oath, so help me God, since I was 17 years old to protect the Constitution, both foreign and domestic.
Right.
So, that's my biggest goal with being sheriff is to ensure there's certain things that I just will not get into if they're civil, and my personal opinion just doesn't matter. I don't have the same ideology as you. I don't have the same opinion as Mark or anyone else, and we may come together in some forms, but we all have different views and different opinions, and I think it's just really important that we have a sheriff that understands the Constitution and is willing to stand up in front of everyone and protect it. And I think that's what's really big about this election coming up is we don't need to go backwards. We need stability, and especially in our country. And I think November 7th will tell the tale.
Right. I don't think people realize that the sheriff, our attorney general, these are constitutional offices.
Correct.
They're not like town council and the board of
Right.
supervisors and things. Those aren't mandatory positions, so to speak. They're fluid, but the Constitution dictates that we'll have a sheriff and we'll have a Commonwealth attorney and et cetera, et cetera. So,
Well, if you look at the Constitution itself, it was written over 2 centuries ago, and it's probably it's law in a sense.
Right.
It's probably one of the greatest written documents in America's history. And, I've heard some people say the Constitution needs to change and this and that. I don't know that it does. I think it's pretty simply written.
They seem to cover all the bases.
They did. And you know what they really did is they knew that politics was going to get involved, and it was going to get dirty, and it was going to get nasty, but the Constitution kind of eliminates the chances of complete tyranny and dictatorship, because you can always vote that person out. And that's why, I'm very proud of what we've accomplished in the sheriff's office, but mostly because we will not invoke one person's constitutional rights to protect another.
Right.
It will be 100% down the line to the Constitution, the best of our ability.
Well, there's a couple topics that have come up in the, around the election period of time.
Yeah.
I got a list here of a couple things that
Okay.
people have mentioned and want to know where you stand on this. The first one is this animal control. That's been a hot topic over the last year, with the Humane Society and all the things going there. But, I think your opponent, wants to restore the animal control position. Why don't you expand a little bit, and how does animal control work?
Okay. Animal control, I believe it's Virginia Code 3.25888 is the code. It's actually a county obligation, not a sheriff's office obligation.
Right.
The sheriff's office, when I came in, there's no MOU with the sheriff's office in the county. There's an MOU with the Humane Society in the county. And that's what I've been expressing is we will do our job as long as we are doing the function of animal control. We will do it in accordance with Virginia law and the Constitution. We will not, some things seem to be civil. Your opinion, just because you think someone's not treating their dog right or their animal right, doesn't mean that they're not treating it in accordance to the law and the Constitution. So it's very easy. Warren County could say, hey, you know what, we're going to do animal control, but it would not be cost effective for our county. And let's be honest, reeling off of or coming over off the wake of the EDA, we need to be as efficient and as effective as possible. So I have deputies, sworn deputies, that are out in patrol at all times. We have never not done animal control. We have had 3 and 4 and sometimes 2 while we're hiring others. But that's any business.
Right.
That's any business. And I can tell you, there's not a lot of law enforcement officers that want to do animal control at a young age.
Right.
Right? But, so if you think about it, Mike, you run a business. If you had one person just designated to open the door every morning and be a receptionist and just answer the phones and answer the doors, that's a waste of money, because if someone's not coming in the door,
they're just sitting
they're just sitting there twiddling their thumbs. So why would you do that? That's not effective. That's not efficient. So anyone saying that not having deputies out there throughout who are already traveling the county and who are already certified in this area or trained how to do this function to not handle the job, well, they clearly don't understand business that well, right? And because now we're duly trained. We have deputies that do Project Lifesaver, but that's not their primary job.
Sure.
But yet we save a lot of lives. We have 21 people attached to that, and we have found lives.
Sure.
It's just like canine officers. If you have just a canine officer that just walks around a dog and doesn't answer calls, well, that's...
How often do you use them?
That's right. You might use them once or twice a day. You might use them once or twice a week. But this way, we have individuals that are multitasking and doing their jobs and staying busy. So we're getting more for our money. And let's be honest, Warren County has high property tax.
Sure.
If you do the comparisons of the budgets, which I've compared the two budgets between the town police department and the sheriff's office, and I suggest everyone do it.
Yeah.
And then you'll see how effective and efficient your sheriff's office truly is. Because I believe the town has 38 sworn, we have 67 sworn spots. Now, 4 of those spots we just received last year because of the increase of population and so on and so forth. But, as far as going back to the animal control, actually I'm very proud of Greg Long's probably one of the best animal controls I've seen. And why would I put an individual just to supervise 3 people that they don't see every single day?
Right.
That makes no sense when I have a sergeant that's already on scene, already supervising.
Right.
So what we did coming into the sheriff's office is we took the 1 in 5 model of supervising. 1 supervisor to 5 individuals.
Yeah, that's pretty universal, isn't it?
That's universal, right? So why in the world would you ever have 1 supervisor just supervising 1 person?
Right.
That's really a waste of resources and money.
Right.
That's why I think people are misinformed, but I'm very happy with our animal control section, and we will continue.
There's always
to
room
do
for
it.
improvement.
There's always room for improvement.
Right.
But if the county ever wanted to come back, the Warren County Sheriff's Office would still have to have a certified animal control.
Right. Talk about that. Why is that? Because some things are criminal.
Right, correct.
So you would need a sworn deputy to process the criminal charges?
Do the warrants and arrests and so on and so forth.
Well, let's talk about our schools, SROs. That's something new that we haven't had forever, in the schools. It seemed like I was growing up and you never seen a deputy in the school, right? I tell people we had gun clubs and hunting knives.
It was different when we grew up.
It was a different time. But now we have a dedicated SRO in our schools.
Yes, we do. COVID kind of made things a little difficult.
I think for everybody.
It did. And this year is our first year without really any COVID strongholds on it and restrictions. So we have a deputy in there. Every single school is covered, and that's per our MOU. We just like animal control, not too many young officers or deputies come in and say, "Hey, put me in SRO," because they want to be out being in the thick of things.
They get into law enforcement to enforce the law, not to play with a bunch of kids, right?
Right.
But truthfully, there's a lot of work in an SRO.
Well, I will tell you, since in the last 3 years, our calls for service at the schools have increased 187%.
Right.
So our SROs are extremely busy.
That brings up a point because I had a couple readers get hold of me and they were almost complaining that the sheriff's involved in these things that happen at the school instead of letting the school handle it. And that used to be years ago that stuff would happen, no one would ever know about it because it never left the school office. Even major criminal activity, so to speak, or, unless it was really, stabbing somebody, what I mean? Now it seems like the sheriff's involved in a lot of things that they're actually breaking the law, but they're kids.
Well, it's a fine line. It really is. It's a fine line. Our SROs, its main focus is truthfully active shooter. Let's be realistic about it. So you have to have an outside perimeter to do security. Anyone who knows security whatsoever knows you cannot secure inside before you've secured the outside. So it is a very challenging task, and I believe once the child is in school, they should be under the supervision of adults.
Right.
And the administration should do their job accordingly. We've worked very diligently with the schools to, when there's an incident that's a possible violation of crime, they contact the sheriff's office, and our SROs are involved in the investigation. Right. We run everything through the Commonwealth Attorney and juvenile intake, as well as some others, and our SROs are extremely, extremely busy. We only have 9 schools. We have 5 elementary.
I thought we had 11.
No, we don't have 11 schools. I don't know who's telling you that, but clearly people need to do the research. 5 elementary schools, 2 high schools, and 2 middle schools.
Right. That's 9.
That's 9. Diversified Minds is a program. And, per the MOU, we realized that we needed a full-time deputy at Diversified Minds, so we wrote a grant to get an extra deputy. That way, because before they had the supervisor working in an elementary school. And how can you supervise if you don't see what your people are doing?
Sure.
Right? So now we're trying to get it to where we have 10, 1 in every school. But then what happens when this person has baby leave and this person is on sick leave and this person has to do mandatory training?
Sure.
All right. So where are we going to pull those? So that's why we're hoping to beef up with those extra positions, 4 positions.
Sure. And cross-training.
Cross-train them and get them in there. And, it's going to take time.
Sure.
Staffing, let's be realistic. I told everybody when I came in that if you could not meet the standards, you weren't going to be there.
Right.
If you were not what we were looking for in law enforcement, to do true community policing,
right.
proactive law enforcement, and do it right, you weren't going to be there.
Right.
And we've had some people leave. I had 25, 26 leave before I even took office. So over the last 3 years, if you think about that, we lost a third of our agency in one day before we ever even started. But yet we haven't skipped a beat.
Right.
And we've gotten accredited. We've gotten the CCPC. We've done if we look at our stats are incredible. So
good work.
Just proud of the hard work of our deputies.
So we're all understaffed. Everything. We're understaffed. Everybody's understaffed.
Everybody's understaffed.
How about some relationships in the community? You've done this community. You've been pushing this community policing scenario ever since I've known you on this thing, and I think it's been pretty successful.
Well, anybody can talk community policing, but what is truly community policing? Community policing didn't start in 1983.
Right.
It started in the 1800s over in England. But what is it? It's actually getting involved in the community, finding the hot spots, finding where the crime is actually happening, and then saturating those areas to run the crime out. By getting involved with all the programs, and if you look at what Robbie Seals, Terry Fritz, and really all our deputies on the street have done, our community policing is out of the roof. And the CCPC proves that. It's not me saying it. So if anyone says they can do community policing better than what the Warren County Sheriff's Office is doing right now, well, good for them, because the state says we're in the top 1-2% of community policing with the CCPC certification.
Speaking of those accreditations, is it really important to be accredited? Isn't every organization kind of like checking on themselves?
Actually, I mean, I think every agency does, but Department of Criminal Justice Services came out with a standard on accreditation. And realistically, Mike, there's 123 sheriff's offices. Only 54 are accredited. There's 340 law enforcement agencies across the country, and I believe we're in the top 27%.
Right, I think there's 103 that are certified in the state out of 300.
Out of 340. So, to obtain accreditation, what does that really mean? Well, actually, I'm getting ready to do a video on it, but accreditation, it just ensures the community that we're being transparent, and we are following the guidelines and the SOPs that we set forth. Because I can sit there and tell you all day long, you can sit there and say, hey, well, that person right there is short, but in essence, they're 6'2". Right. They're not short to me. So if we're sitting there and we're doing accreditation, we're telling you we're being transparent. We're ensuring the community that trust. That's why it was so important to me. Because let's be realistic about it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We're past that, and it's not too soon. The EDA was one of the worst scandals in the history of Warren County, and probably one of the worst scandals in the history of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And it stemmed from within the sheriff's office. I swore I'd get rid of the good old boys. I swore I would come in and run it to the Constitution and the Code, and I've done that. I've made some people mad, all right? But I'd ask, why are they mad? Because if they're mad, why would you be mad that we're making our streets safer and protecting the Constitution and enforcing the laws equally and fairly? Another thing it shows is, well, let's be honest, Mike, June 1st, 2020 is first time the Warren County Sheriff's Office, to my knowledge, maybe the second, has ever hired diversity within the Sheriff's Office. We hire the best of the best that we get coming through our door, and we try to recruit from others. I'm not going to lie there.
You're stealing from all these other
I'm trying to. But, accreditation really is there so the people can understand and have trust and faith in its sheriff's office once again. And, the morale within the sheriff's office is higher than I've ever seen it in any law enforcement agency. Yeah. Yes, you have people that are not happy. We were in the military, right?
Yeah.
If somebody's not complaining, they're not doing anything, right? So, we've made a lot of strides. We've increased pay in the sheriff's office over the last 3.5 years, 20%.
I just seen a recent story that we posted about you've moved a lot of people around, promoting them. So what was the deal on that? I mean, I seen some negative comments about it on social media. So I was surprised that we're promoting people and paying them more money, and you move some staff around,
Yeah, I mean, it happens. Look at the town of Front Royal. The town of Front Royal promoted, Major Nice Warner retired. They did a process. I believe Captain Klein and Captain Ryman actually tested for that job, and Major Ryman won got the board.
Sure.
I've heard why, but Major Ryman, I've known him a long time. We don't see eye to eye on everything, but I will tell you this right now: he's a cop's cop.
He's a straight shooter, isn't he?
He is. I like Major Ryman, and
what about this other accreditation? What's it all about now? Because you're only like 13th in the state.
Oh, the CCPC.
Yeah, because 13. That seems like, why aren't more people doing this?
It's hard.
Okay.
It's difficult, and Terry Fritz, Major Driscoll, and myself sat down when we wanted to do community policing. We knew we wanted to do a youth academy. We knew that's getting ready. I think actually Lieutenant Fritz is coming in to talk about that soon because we want to get him in there. But we wanted to develop these programs. It's one thing, like I said, it's okay. I want our deputies to stop throw the football. We used to do that all the time in the neighborhoods. But that's one out of so many. So we're trying to develop all these programs within the community, like Salt Triad, where we speak and so forth. So
it's silly. Little simple things like going to the senior center and going to the library and reading a story. That's all part of this community policing.
It's all part of it. And, if you look at the outreach, I believe we're 100% more. I think it's actually a lot more than that, but 100% is extremely safe to say. We're 100% more involved in the community than the sheriff's office has ever been.
Right.
Our SROs are teaching DARE, and they're also teaching Virginia rules.
Right.
So we're teaching more relevant classes, cyberbullying, vaping, human trafficking, and other things coming out. So we're really involved in the community.
All this stuff that you're doing costs money. How are we doing on the budget?
Well, our budget, a lot of people look at it and they say, oh my gosh, the sheriff's has increased $3 million. No, I didn't. That's a farce. That's a misread. What it was sheriff's office had a budget, animal control had a budget, school resource had a budget, court services had a budget. And what I did was, because they were all taking from the sheriff's budget, and then at the end of the year, they were moving the money over into the sheriff's budget to cover it anyway. So and I know, if you have all these small budgets, you have fluff hidden within those budgets. So I was able to move that aside, put that into one budget. We're not moving a lot of money at the end. Once we're out of X amount of money, guess what? We're not spending. We only spend on our needs, and we have a list of wants that we want, and we do it like you would your house budget.
Yeah.
You know, you may need a roof, and you may want a new floor.
I have to prioritize.
Exactly. So we've been able to prioritize. Our budget has raised 20% from the state. State mandates. State also pays $2 million every year to take the burden off the taxpayers' dollars. What a lot of people don't understand, if you divide $42,000 into our budget, county residents only pay, I think it's $180 per resident per year for their law enforcement. Now, that includes patrol, investigations, court services, civil process, prisoner transport and extraditions, SROs, animal control, and so on and so forth.
And that covers the town of Front Royal as well.
That covers the entire county because 15.2.1609 states I shall enforce and ensure the laws are enforced. I have many people that call us on a regular basis and say, hey, Sheriff, this is happening in the town. And I say, have you contacted the town of Front Royal? And if they may say, well, Sheriff, I want you to investigate it. Then I'm obligated. I have to. It's not like I have a choice. No, I don't want to investigate that because that's down. Because the town does fall within the county limits.
Right. I think some people don't realize that the state budgets, or you have deputies per population. How's that work?
So
like 3,200 people and you get one deputy or something?
For every 1,500 people, you get one deputy.
Okay.
That includes me as well in there. So it's not like, we actually have a third captain spot that we haven't filled in 3.5 years.
Right.
Because we're very confident in our captains to manage their sections the way we have it broke down. Captain Collins was one of the individuals promoted. Mm-hmm. Great managerial mind, and very, very, very well at multitasking.
Right.
Very sufficient. And Major Mumal is probably one of the better operational guys I've ever met. So, Captain Brogan, he kind of runs the administrative side in the courts, and very meticulous, very intelligent when it comes to technologies and IT, and very strict when it comes to procurement.
Yeah. You got to watch all the pennies because they add up to dollars, don't they?
You do.
Because you may need that dollar down the road for something that...
Running a sheriff's office, and I will tell you, Mike, 3.5 years ago, I'm doing things I never even considered I'd be doing, or having to do as part of my day-to-day obligations. But I think Warren County should be very proud of their sheriff's office because I know I am.
Right. So you mentioned in this budget, I just want to kind of pound on that for a minute.
Here we go.
Well, only because I know you've done a lot of little things, but I don't know if people realize that typically we do what's called a zero-based budget. Someone told me that the sheriff's office was like the only department in the county that did a zero-based budget.
Well, I submitted so what I did was I broke down every single deputy, what it would cost for every single deputy to operate for the year, all our reoccurring fund bills and and I broke down what it would cost at bare minimum. And I had to do it within 2 weeks when I first started. 2 weeks. And Doug Stanley told me, that's not what we're looking for. We want last year's budget and just add 10% to it. That's a zero-based budget. I was like, no, that's not a zero-based budget.
You're supposed to start at the bottom and work all year. Because things change.
It does. And if you look at our budget over the years, first year we needed different uniforms. Our uniforms were costly, and everybody said, oh, they've changed the uniforms. Yeah, we did. The white shirt and the dress pants and all that complete uniform, just the shirt and the pants, is like $300 or $400.
Right.
Plus tailored.
Right.
Right. And that's not practical to go running through Andy Guest Park chasing a bad guy or a missing person, looking for a missing person, running through the river or diving in the river. So what we did was a more practical uniform, and I'm able to get 4 uniforms for the price of 1 uniform.
Right. So
now our guys have a change of uniform. They're not worrying about tearing, not worrying about spending all this money in laundry and dry cleaning. Right. So we've been able to save a lot of money in the budget.
Changed the hat too, didn't you?
We're not wearing a $100 hat. Those Stetsons cost $100.
Right.
$100. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather my tax-paying dollars go somewhere else.
Right. What are our ball cap? I mean, I seen one.
I think we get them for like $7, So, because we get them in bulk, and
Sure.
it's just.
Those little things, though, you figured out that gives you $93 to spend on something else.
But what a lot of people don't understand is, all our equipment was antiquated when we came in. It was bad. Right. Most of our cars didn't have computers in them. Guys had to literally come back to the station to write reports. Now we can actually write reports in our vehicles.
While you're patrolling.
While we're patrolling.
Right.
So, we're not being ineffective. Right. We're being more efficient. But we've been able to replace all these body-worn cameras. We're actually changing our guns from 40 to 9. So we can get ammunition more regular.
Oh, yeah. At a lower cost.
And 9mm, a easier round to control than a 40 caliber for some. Yeah. And, but all this was done off of grants. A lot of our funding has been done with grants. I've been come after about my canines. Well, Sheriff, you spent all this money on canines. Did I? Not really. Our 2 bloodhounds that have already saved lives, I actually wrote that grant, and we got 2 for free. 2 for free. So I had to pay for a little bit of training.
You had a line item in your budget for dog toys.
I didn't put that in my line item. I don't know who put the description of it. My description is canine expenses. So for 5 dogs, we're spending $10,000. I know departments that are spending for 2 dogs almost $20,000 to $30,000.
Right.
So I'm very.
They're not dog toys.
They're not dog toys. Now I might buy a tongue out of it, or a throw toy for the dog, because that's how it's rewarded. But most of that comes to vet bills and
that's not
and
cheap.
Food.
That's not cheap.
So,
well, we've covered a lot of things here today, and I'm sure there's more things that'll come up, and people will send us, nasty grams about something. But
I'm sure, Mike. All I will tell you is this: if anyone is saying that animal control is not run properly, well, that's because they just don't know. Right. And you can't blame somebody for ignorance when they just don't know something.
Right.
But they should research it before they start. Our school resource officers, we're doing our very best to build a better relationship with each administration. But each administration changes each year as well.
Right.
Because teachers are leaving being teachers.
Sure.
Right. There's not a lot of money in there. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so they have a big turnover.
There is a big turnover in that, and it's getting harder and harder. As far as our drugs and our stuff coming off the street, I believe we just sentenced a guy to 11 years for one of the large suppliers in this area of Warren County and so forth, affecting our area. We're doing very, very well. Okay. We're actually getting ready to purchase a tethered drone for our search and rescue and operations. It's a great tool that can be used, and it'll be donated by the local drug dealers of Warren County.
There you go.
So I appreciate them,
All right. Well, we've covered enough for this session.
I think we're good, Mike.
Good. We want you to come back. We've invited all the candidates running for all the offices. They're more than welcome to give us a call, and we can schedule a time to get your message out as well. So
I'll come back anytime, that, and anybody can come talk to me.
And they can do it. Your office is always open. Remember, early voting starts September 22nd. You still have time to get registered to vote, and the big day is November 7th. So,
and remember, we need stability in Sheriff's office.
All right. Thanks again,
Thanks,
Sheriff.
Mike.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.